Hello and welcome everybody to another edition of the Rugby League Roundtable. I'm James Graham, your host, joined by the administrator, Tony Mestrov, the coach, Shane Flanagan, the player, Aaron Woods, and the media reporter, hack, however you want to... journalist. We'll go with journalist.
Journalist.
Brent Reid, all joining the show to talk about rep football. We're going to go straight into it, lads. The taxing rugby league calendar. We're going to get a question from our fans. This has been a great addition to the Rugby League Roundtable this year. This is from Winston Neville.
Hey boys, I love rep footy. I love the Origin games and I love the international games, but I feel like there's got to be a better system. We have Origin in the middle of the year. We have the teams lose their star players to Origin and it can affect their season. And then at the end of the year, the international games, which I must say I love that we're playing more international games now, but then the star players go off, they play the international games, and then they have a delayed return to pre-season, and this affects the clubs as well as they prepare for the next season. Is there a better system? Can we schedule rep games better? What do you think?
So we'll get straight into Origin. It is the jewel in the crown of rugby league. The only sport I know of that has a state v state representative game, but it comes right in the middle of the season. Flano, I'll go to you as a coach. You want to have Origin players, you just don't want them playing in it.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. They definitely want to have Origin players, and it's something we've, tried to get at the Dragons, whether you got to recruit them. Obviously, we've got Damien Cook and Val that have both played Origin coming next year. So this year it didn't affect us. We actually made it a bit of a point that we needed to strike during that period. The teams we were playing, we played Condensed during that period, and we were lucky enough to get the 2 points. For me, I think rep footy and Origin footy are two different things for me. I love Origin. I love where it's placed. I don't think we should change it, and I think clubs have got better at managing it. And when it is, I think it's a good time for some of the other players that aren't rep footy players to have a spell. So, which they do get. And with the bye system now, we had 3 byes this year, James, which is rare in our game. When you were playing, you wouldn't have had 3 byes during a season. So, that's a good fortnight off footy. So the whole thing has changed. Player burnout is because what happens at the end of the year, not what happens during the year.
By the end of the year, you mean finals or the international games?
International games. We just had a World Cup. I went to a World Cup in the UK. It just seems like 12 months ago. It was the year before, but for the World Cup. And
we had dinner over there.
We did, and I had to shout. And we had the World Cup, and then we come back, and then we have all these games. I think, I used to love when I was a kid, every couple of years, watching Great Britain come out to Australia or Australia Great Britain. It just seems we have rep footy at the end of the year every year, and I think the players, I know my players would love to have, when they finish their commitments after grand final, to November off.
I think if I can give my Origin opinion, I just think it needs to stand alone. I think the game's got too fast. From a club point of view, we pay a much higher proportion of wages now compared to the Origin. And we have been impacted the last couple of years. Tommy got injured the year before last. Olakau'atu unfortunately jumped the fence and got a 2-week suspension. So we've had an affecting union in Origin. So I just like to see it stand alone. I think it's got faster. You want to have your quality of players back playing with you.
On a weekend?
I think it should be 3 or 4 weeks in a row. It should be
on the weekend, no games, and they played on a Saturday.
Correct. I just think it still showcases Origin, but still the fans get what they need. Whether you put the NRLW games or other games, I just think now it's too fast. The backup factor, I'm sure you would go through it, Flano, is like you're going to back someone. Is it a risk? So you don't want to play them and then you're a chance of losing and the fans are obviously affected. So I like to see Origin a standalone for 3 or 4 weeks. And I think rep footy needs to be looked at. Like I said, at the end of the year, it does get heavy. And it's, we want to keep the Australian dream alive, I think, as well. So I just think Origin needs to stand alone firstly.
Obviously, it being standalone, that then therefore extends the season by at least 3 weeks.
The game's getting faster. James. And look, we can't deny that. And injuries, and Woodsy will be able to say how the game's got faster. And it's just Origin now that this year went to another level. And I saw, obviously Daly come back, and it did take him a few weeks. Like that went to the next level of any state of origin. So if we continue on that plane and with the 6 games, it's going to get faster. So I just think we've got to do the right thing by the players. A bit of a club hat here but I think, the players recover. The game's still big. It's still a showcase.
Now, you go. Oh, I don't know what the answer is to this, Timmy. I think
that was kind of your job to figure that out.
I think I know what the answer is.
I don't know.
I'll give you my answer, right? I think Origin stays where it is. The season's got to be shorter. If you're going to play rep footy at the end of the season, international footy at the end of the, and I was opposed to this. My opinion on this has only changed in the last month. Talking to people, and I think they need to congest the season, play less rounds, and I think Peter V'landys wants to do this. I heard him on television the other week talking about it. Maybe it's 20 rounds, right? So you take out 4 rounds of the comp, you play Origin as it stands right now, and then you play Test footy after that. So your season's actually condensed to, instead of being 32 weeks or whatever it is now, with 27 rounds plus, then they go into rep footy camp. It ends up being 5 weeks in rep footy camp, 4 or 6 weeks. That's a 33-week season. It's 20 rounds plus finals. That's 24, and it becomes about a 28-week season
with Origin in between.
With Origin, no standalone Origin.
No standalone Origin.
Now.
Just a shortened season.
Now the issue is there. The issue is there. Origin.
So just
Origin
a short season anyway.
Yeah. You reduce the number of games they play.
Then the impact of Origin is greater.
Well, that's the problem.
The percentage of games that you play with players backing up or without your players is increased.
Issue, yes.
I just think we need to look at our internationals, the international schedule. Origin's sweet how it is. That's what makes this competition so hard.
I think keeping it in
the Wednesday night
midweek.
It's a different brand for us. This is what we got different to AFL and Union. We play on a Wednesday night. 2 states go against each other. No one else does it. The thing for me is what they need to fix up is the international schedule. It's like it's not done until mid-year. We only found out a few weeks ago what the dates were for the Pacific Nations Cup.
But are you saying they shouldn't play it at the end of the year?
I'm saying that. I said it needs to be sorted out, the schedule.
I know, Flanny, you were saying we almost play too much of it, yeah? Like, that is one growth area of the game. If you talk to Peter and Andrew about, it's one area they're really focused on because they can see it's an area that
untapped potential.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we're going to keep playing it. That's not going to change because they think that they can grow it to a point where it becomes a really powerful tool for the game, particularly in the Pacific. We're about to get $600 million out of the federal government to put a team at PNG, but half of that money is for growth in the Pacific. So they aren't going to stop playing test matches because they've just got $600 million from the government to say you need to spend money in the Pacific and play football in the Pacific.
I'm not totally against that. I just want a little bit what Woodsy said that, okay, every second year we play Great Britain. Every second year we play New Zealand. So we know what's coming up.
You know what the schedule is.
We know what the schedule is. There's going to be the Pacific nations are going to play every second year.
Yeah.
There's going to be a World Cup maybe every 4. At the moment, we don't know until basically the end of the season.
I agree with you on that, Flan. I mean, it's really haphazard the way they do it.
Like an international schedule.
Yeah.
Like if you look at rugby union, where the international game is the pinnacle, which I think rugby league should be at. Like. They've got the next. They know when the Lions tour is. They know when the World Cup is. They know when the Players Low is.
Should be like a 4-year cycle. You know, on each 4 years, I reckon.
Well, we had a World Cup locked in France and it fell over. And
a 4-year cycle would be fantastic. I think what you're saying there, Reedy, is that we're going to have 20 teams.
Yes. In
a blink of an eyelid, basically, and we'll play one full round, I would think, and then have Origin in the middle and semi-finals. So it's going to solve itself, isn't it? We're not going to have 2 rounds.
Well. The consequence of reducing the fixtures is the broadcasters will contribute
money. Yeah,
but you have more teams. So I mean, the argument is that yes, you play less games, but it's not as the reduction in games isn't as significant as it would be because you've got 3 more teams.
Would you think it's one full round of say if there's 20 teams, one full round, or we go into 2 pools?
I think you go into 2 pools, maybe you play...
Or 3 pools.
You also get your bye, because we've had 3 byes this season.
Well, we are going to touch that on the structure of the competition, but in terms of the reduction of fixtures because of internationals and Origin, if you'd reduce the contribution by the TV companies, which then would hit the players, and the players say, "Just give me it."
But Jimmy, you were
because even on scheduling, right? You know, and Flanagan spoke about the international game. If there was an out of overseas company that came in and offered the NRL to play a nines tournament in Dubai and threw a ton of cash at it, like they do with the T20, the 2020, where they go over and they play in the Caribbean or they play in the IPL, the players would all of a sudden, that burnout factor would disappear. You know what that $1 million to play 4 extra games in a sevens tournament in Dubai over a period of 2 weeks plus maybe a semi and then a final be, actually that hammy. Well, you know what? I'll get that injection in my shoulder again. Like, because a lot of the reason we do a lot of things is for financial compensation.
But also, Jimmy, you think if whatever money you lose from the broadcasting deal for the NRL season, you would hope you would make it up if there's more focus on international footy and we can get that right. Maybe that starts to bring in some revenue, TV revenue as well. So maybe it compensates for whatever you lose.
But how can the international game get bigger when there's a bit of a competitive disadvantage going on where Australia dominates? That's the hard thing, isn't it? That's why Origin is so good. So how do you make it like more competitive? I'm all for an international game, don't get me wrong, but like how do we do that?
Well,
That's the hardest part.
Well, again, they're about to invest $300 million in the Pacific. Hopefully that helps the game bring through better athletes and find better players and find more. A lot of our rugby league players have got Pacific Island heritage in one form or another. And a lot of them are playing now. Like you look at Jerome and Steve and Brian Torrey, they're all playing for Samoa when they can play for Australia. You look at Hamoli, right? Hamoli. Yeah. So, there's maybe you just try and keep encouraging that. I know it would hurt Australia, but you get a more competitive international game. I mean, we should be buying Super League as well and helping English Rugby League because that's I know they've talked about that and they've looked at it. But if you want to help the international game, the NRL should take over, buy Super League, take it over, run it.
Is it for sale?
Well, everything's for sale.
They're actually talking about it. And Andrew Abdo's openly in CEO meeting said they are looking at it. Obviously, James, you've played in it, so have I. I'd love to see it stronger. At the moment, the standard is just not good enough.
What would something like that cost to buy that?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure how much it cost, but
there'd be a big investment in order to just help the international game, and it would basically the benefactors would be England and maybe France. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of money to put in for the goal of advancing the international game. You'd need to have the goal of making it a revenue. You'd need it to provide. Like you'd only buy the Super League to get revenue.
James, but you said to me at the start, but you were talking about Super League. We're saying the pathways over, the Wiggins and St Helens and everything. There's just no one playing. There's not as many people playing the game. So why would we buy the game at the top when all the foundations below are just falling away? We're not going to solve the problem. It's going to buy, and Blandy's is smarter than we are. He's not going to buy something that's going to fall over.
Yeah. I'm of the opinion. I think it'd be a very risky move. To buy the Super League, very risky.
It'd be a broadcast play. That's the only play I can see him doing it. So worldwide, it'd be part of a broader broadcast back here, which, it is dying. Like there's no doubt in areas that...
And potentially to bring in more teams and more players to our competition. And you'd have to, look, we're slightly going off topic here, but I think you'd have to reduce the number of teams and have them be part of a conference or like its own conference that then would play finals or would fly here like they did in the Super League competition back in '97.
World Club Challenge.
Do you think if it was bought by the NRL and obviously the profile lifted with a smaller group of teams, that would help participation?
But, Matt, the only thing is that where it sits on the sporting stage is absolutely nowhere because sport's going global now. So the American sports now, it's come here to Australia. NFL is huge in the United Kingdom, as is basketball. The Premier League. You've even got now growing competitions in the Middle East that dominant. Boxing has become bigger. Like the sports stage there is full and chock-a-block full. And not even mention rugby union, which is they could sell Twickenham 5, 6, 7 times over. They put England against the Barbarians and people are crying out for it. So, look, I just don't know if there's room anymore on the sporting stage in England, but it would have to be a viewpoint of we can actually turn this into a revenue spinner for us, which I don't know if they can offer that at the moment.
Oh, it's a bit depressing, Jim.
Tough one.
Well, it is. No, it is. It is, and it saddens me to see it. But I know that they have their challenges, and if the NRL were to buy it to take over, I don't know if it's going to be able to.
I think they can maybe run it better, and use some of their resources to help grow the game up there, and maybe get their pathways working better. And
when I said before about the international game at the end of the year, there's just say Ben Hunt. I reckon in the last 5 years he's just gone season, rep season, season into rep season, and we've had some players as well. Is the Kalen Ponga decision earlier on not to be available for Australia part of that? Like if it was every second or third year, hey, this is my opportunity to play for Australia, but it's on every year. Like because if
But Dave, he's a bit of a bad example. He hasn't really played for Australia. I mean, he played nines for Australia, so he's locked to Australia, but he hasn't made his full Australian test debut. So he's not a guy who's been. His issue is he's had injuries during the season. That's what's hurt him. And that's why he wants to focus on Newcastle, because he feels like he hasn't given them, he's the highest paid player in rugby league, and he hasn't given them good service because he's had injuries. I don't think his issue is rep footy related.
Yeah, and I don't think there's enough prestige in the Australian jersey at the moment that he's willing to go, that this is something that I want.
I reckon Mel's done a really good job on that front, actually. I think Mel has done an amazing job on that front, Jimmy. I think you're a bit harsh there.
But, mate, so why would he pull out then?
There's too much. As I said, he wants to focus on Newcastle.
Well,
he's an airhead.
I don't know. So there's a number of players that will be playing in this weekend's grand final that will be receiving painkiller injections. They won't elect to play for Australia, and they've got justification is the fact that they're injured. But if there was enough prestige in there, they would, because they played State of Origin.
I reckon Cam Munster and Nathan Cleary would love to play for Australia, but I reckon their clubs are probably saying it.
Yeah, because there's not. But they wouldn't do the same for State of Origin.
We pay your wages. It's in your.
Yeah, I know Munster missed the State of Origin series, but that was he was out, injured. No one's playing club football and then not playing. He
could have kept playing with that injury.
Yeah, but he missed club football as well, so he was totally out.
Yeah, but he could have kept playing with that injury. The club made him say, I don't care about Origin. I want you to go right for the back end of the season.
Yeah.
There's too much of a difference between club and rep football, what the pay is. It's simple as that.
I reckon most players, 99% of players, would die to play for Australia. I reckon I don't know, you too. Well, I
agree with you.
Yeah.
It's the best thing I've ever done.
Yeah.
And Mao's done such a big job in doing it. My first coach was Tim Sheen, just sort of lost its way a little bit. And then as soon as Mao got in there, he changed the whole culture completely.
Yeah, I think it's brilliant. I think it's a really important part of the game. I just think at the moment the issue is that the guys are playing so much football, and even then most of them are broken. They're still turning out for Australia and want to play for Australia. So, I just think we need to somehow, hopefully when expansion happens, we just reduce the schedule, reduce the toll, and then you can play rep footy at the end of the year. Don't do it. Okay, do it 3 out of every 4 years. You have a World Cup, you tour England.
Yeah.
And you
play New Zealand.
Play New Zealand, Samoa, Tonga, or whatever.
Yeah, World Cup.
And then you have a year off, and then you go through the same cycle.
Just on the Origin factor, I'll go to you, Flano. You lose those players, right? And you go out and you bring say a Val Holmes to the club. Mm-hmm. You know he's likely going to play State of Origin. Does the value of Kiwi and English and non-eligible Origin players go up, and do those Origin players maybe go down?
Well, it definitely comes in the conversation in recruitment meetings that, obviously you're signing a Val Holmes that you're probably going to miss him for a couple of weeks there. And then, obviously if you do sign, a Samoan or a Kiwi, that they don't have those issues. But in the end, you probably look over those type of things when you go, no, I just want that player at my club. They're minor details.
But the value of
The buys now as well. You get a couple extra buys around Origin period.
But with the value of Kiwi and English players inflate then?
I wouldn't think so. Just because they can't play Origin. I think, their value is, set whether they're going to play Origin or not. Same with players that, the Val Holmes, for example, we've got a value, and whether he makes Origin next year or doesn't, that's not going to change.
Sometimes Origin, though, more than me, Flano, it improves the player, doesn't it? Like sometimes they go to another level. Like Daly has, there's no doubt. Origin has taken him to another level like this.
But also, you said it affected him on the back of this year's season because Queensland lost, which I've had numerous times with Gal. He'd come back and he'd be, he wasn't there for 3 or 4 weeks just because of the mental drain that Origin takes out of him, especially the captain.
Dave Riccio did a story in the telly a while ago, and it was how many Origin players you need to win a premiership. Like you cannot win a premiership without at least 4. I think it's 4 is the magical number. You need at least 4 Origin players or you will not win a premiership. I think one side's done it in 25 years or something. So,
Interesting.
you need to have Origin players or you just can't win.
Yeah.
So, I can't remember what the number was. I'll look it up while you talk. You want? You want me to look it up real quick?
Let's go with 4.
Still talking?
4.2.
I think it was.
They're going to be 4, yeah.
Yeah.
With Origin, I've been criticised for this point of view before, that if the series is over at 2-0, one way to reduce the impact on the players is to scrap the dead rubber. And I know people don't even like that term, but I'm fascinated by culture. Obviously grew up in England where the winner of the competition is first past the post. In most sports, we have a promotion and relegation culture. Here in Australia, that doesn't exist. It's slightly different. It's got its own sporting culture of a grand final model and a franchise model, and where some can move. That just doesn't happen in the European sports culture that I'm from. Over to America, the States, the culture of a series is very much a best of 7, but if it's once that one team gets to 4, over, like stop, it's done. Why would we continue on? We've won it. So here in Australia, we complain about the taxing nature of the season, the amount of games that we play. Hey, one way to reduce that and the impact of that is the series is over, guys.
You need to give the money back to Channel 9, or they paid for 3 Origin games?
See, what you're failing to see, really, is what we gain.
I agree with the magical number.
Magical number?
4.92.
4.9.
Since 1983, you need to have 4.92 Origin players. I don't know how you make it.
How you not
4.92. Average number is 4.92. You can't win without 4.92 Origin players. So Penrith should win this weekend by that.
Well, how many did Melbourne have?
Melbourne only had 2 this year, but no, Munster was injured, obviously.
He's maybe the
Coates and Harry Grant.
It'd be interesting to see that 4.92, whatever, when you talk about Origin players and or Test players. So, you go to a side like Melbourne where they got Jerome and so on.
Yeah.
Does the Test player count as an Origin player?
Well, they probably should.
Yeah, they should.
It's just Origin player, 4.92.
So,
Sorry,
but back to your point before about, do you give the money back to 9? You factor that into your negotiations. So that's part of the culture is, it's definitely 2. You're going to get that. But what you're failing to realise is how big Game 3 would be. In American sports culture, there's no bigger phrase than Game 7. It stops the nation. So you can imagine that here we build this culture of like, Game 3 is happening, which it usually does anyway.
I don't know.
I think it's changed a little bit since we play 1 in Queensland, 1 in New South Wales, and 1 somewhere else. So that's changed the story a little bit. It used to be obviously 2 in New South Wales and 1 in Queensland, and they swapped the next year. But now that 1's in a neutral venue, has changed that. And I probably agree with Reedy. Who's going to give the money back? I know the players aren't.
We've agreed a lot today, Flano. Have you noticed that?
Well, that's
Just like
Players get 30. Players still get 30 grand. Yeah, they're not going to want to give up that for the third game.
Well, okay. Well, this is it. No one can complain when you've got a potential solution to reduce the number of fixtures and just go, oh, it's about the money. So why would we ever reduce the fixtures?
What about tradition? It's been 3 games since 1980. When it 80 and 81 were one, and then it was 82.
Okay,
There
but
was
there's
3 games.
all sorts of
Or 83.
Yeah,
sorry.
that's the tradition. But we only do it because that's what we've done. The tradition in the United States is when it's over, it's over.
We're not United States, we're Australia.
Yeah, I'm aware of that.
And that's our tradition.
I'm aware. So it's our tradition. Well, you know when the player comes back and he's injured in game 3, it's just tradition, mate. Don't worry about it.
Yeah,
It's fine.
it is.
You know, when Ben Hunt, if Ben Hunt
What
comes
about
back
the young
with
kid
the
gets an
Dragon,
opportunity to play game 3
when
and he comes back and he's flying for the back
then
end
you
of the season?
devalue the product. You devalue it by handing them out.
I think you devalue the product by saying to get rid of game 3.
But no, basically what I'm saying is it's all about the finance. Don't give me the tradition bullshit argument. It's about financial compensation.
No.
Don't give me the
That's not
seasons
what it's
too.
about.
Don't give me the seasons too long when it's about financial compensation. You've got a possibility to take
It's also
that.
an opportunity for a young player to get a first rep jersey.
But then, well,
Then you take the finance out of
devalue
the-
rep jersey then by just handing
It's
it
not
to
even a
someone.
younger player. Daly's 30. What's
How do
Daly?
you devalue for having if the young kid's still good enough to
Because-
play?
Well, if they've earned their spot, they're playing anyway.
Well, how many more chances?
James,
has
you answered
Daly-
the question earlier about, okay, do you want to play this third origin? Or we've already, Queensland have won 2. Do you want to play this third origin? Oh, yeah, my shoulder's not that sore. I think I can play because of the financial reward.
Yeah.
So they whinge at the end of the season,
Yeah.
but when it comes about, do you want to miss this origin or do you want to play it? They want to play it.
If you're getting 30 grand a test for Australia, you'd see some players. And like I say about the idea of an end of season sevens in Dubai or wherever it is, or in the Middle East that are pumping money into sport, you'd soon see some people go, actually, you know what? The season's not long enough. I'll play forever.
I reckon that's very cynical to suggest that they're only playing game 3 for 30 grand if it's 2-0. I reckon those blokes, as a Queenslander, I'm a Queenslander, mate, those blokes, they want to play because they want to pull on that jersey, right? They might get another chance.
Especially if you're 2 up. If you're 2 up and you're New South Wales,
As I
let's
said, Gailey's 34, 35. He hasn't got that many jerseys left in him, right? And you're going to take the chance to play another one away from him? Try telling Daly Cherry Evans that. I'll tell you what he'd say to you, Jimmy. Go take the blind lead.
And that's fine. That's absolutely
So when
fine.
you played for England,
that's absolutely
here's
fine.
one for you. When you played for Great Britain or England,
Nations.
and you were 2-0 down the series, which were lots of times against Australia,
Yeah, okay.
would you have not played the third game? Would you have preferred not to play?
Well, I know in those. So I've played the Kiwis in a test series. We were 2-0 up in the third game. We were on holiday and we did give out those jerseys. It was not the same.
So you didn't want it. You didn't want to play.
Of course, I wanted to win.
Okay.
Of course, I wanted
But
to
did
play.
you want to play? Okay, well, that's the point.
Of course, I wanted
That's
to
the
play.
point.
You just answered your own question.
That was the rules of engagement, though. But if you know what they'd have said, we've won game 2, it's over. I'd have gone, sweet, we're going away.
Would you really?
Of course, if that's what, if that,
So rather
that
than
was
get
the
another
cul-
chance to play for your
if that was the
country,
culture that I grew up in, absolutely.
I don't think you would have, Jimmy. I'm disappointed.
If that was the norm,
I think you just want to come with an argument.
Come on, mate. If that was
Common
the
sense,
norm,
come
if
on.
that was the norm,
Jimmy.
then of course.
But that's if it was the norm. That's not the norm.
I know, but what wasn't the norm was the intensity of this competition. So Origin was brought around in a very different time when it wasn't uncommon to play Saturday and Wednesday. Those old school Kangaroo tours, many players played Saturday and on Wednesday. That was the done thing back then because the game was different. Origin was brought in at a time when the game was very, very different.
Origin's
changed and
still
evolved.
different now, brother.
Yeah, I know, but the ability to back up and play was different because the game wasn't as taxing. But it is taxing now, and we're talking about player burnout. And I'm offering one simple solution.
That's not the answer to it, Jimmy.
It's
That's
not the answer, but it's a reduction.
It's not the
It's a
solution.
reduction in risk.
Origin, do not tinker with Origin. Like Origin's a beast. Why would you muck around with that?
Because it's causing these issues.
Fix
causing issues.
fix other issues, and that might fix that issue.
And also, it would help those rep players play for their club. So you're not missing out on a game. You get to play for your club.
Don't mess with Origin,
The
Jimmy.
fans get rewarded.
Don't mess with
The
Origin.
club fans get so if Coach Flanagan, right, who had his 3 or 4 Origin players. He's got his 4.98 Origin players.
Coach at Origin. Was good playing then.
He's Coach Flanagan's got his 4.98 Origin players playing,
4.92.
and they're up. They're either up or down.
Yep.
Does he want those players back?
Well, yeah.
Or do you-
What you're saying, if we're 2-0, if New South Wales is 2-0, and I've got 4.9 Origin players, and I need them this weekend because we need to continue to win in the semi-finals. I'm going, oh mate, unless you're 100% fit, you're not playing Origin this week. So
And what are they telling you? I'm 100%
get stuff on
fit.
playing.
Yeah.
But you also need the revenue, right? So there's that. They want to play, but we need the revenue. The game needs revenue. You can't have the showcase of the game playing one less event.
How much money would they make, mate?
It's worth a lot of money.
Yeah.
Or it's a lot of money. The pie be smaller.
It's not just the broadcasting revenue. It's also, what if the third game is at a core? 70,000 people, corporates everywhere. They make a fortune out of that.
How do the Americans deal with it with the Game 7 series then?
Mate,
Like it's just.
have you seen their broadcasting deals?
It's a lot different than
They're
ours.
measured in the billions, their broadcasting deals. Money's not an issue over there. And I keep saying to you, Jimmy, they don't have a natural enemy. We do. We've got the AFL we're up against. We've got rugby union. We've got natural
I
enemies.
don't think you see the value in that Game 3 and the hype that would bring, especially after a year of 2-game series. It's like, or a 2-game series. I think
Can it get any
following
bigger? Can Game 3 get any bigger than what it is now? It's
Wait to
huge
do it.
now. Yeah, I don't like it, Jimmy. I can't go with you on this one.
That's fair enough, mate. That is fair enough. Well, I really don't know how we get the perfect solution to this. Obviously, we've got some internationals coming up. Again, this is probably a bit of a spanner in the works, just like the Origin chat. We've got the Ashes at the end of 2025, followed by a World Cup end of 2026. If they ultimately fail, is it time to say, look, we're going to move on from international football? I know you say about it's a potential, a huge untapped market, but if those 2 events can't attract the fans of Australia, where the game's in its strongest geographical area, like, what do we do?
Oh, I think that'd be really sad if you got rid of international footy. I think players love, as Woodsy said, love playing for Australia. You love playing for England. I mean, you've got to persist. You just got to persist with it and persist with it and persist with it, and hope that eventually it becomes a money spinner for you. And if it doesn't, you've got to supplement it and make and it's got to be, you got to prop it up because it's important.
We need to be smart with those international games, that we play the games in the right places. What I mean by that, the PNG, we need to play Australia play PNG, Samoa play PNG in PNG. We don't want a PNG versus Samoa somewhere in Queensland or in New South Wales. It's really important where those games, so those stadiums are full, like go to Fiji, play Australia versus Fiji in one of those games. Or, as I said, the World, especially World Cup games, Samoa versus Tonga, obviously that's going to be big wherever. But I think it's really important where we play those other nations, that they're at home.
Yeah. On that theme as well, like the old Kangaroo tours, like wouldn't those areas that are struggling to grow in the English game up north do with like Australian players, like Australia playing a Leeds or Australia playing a Castleford or whoever it is?
I know what you're saying, but those days of the Kangaroo tour of 3 months.
Not they're going to go that long, and whether they play a number of sides, not the full tour. But it will
It'd be good exposure for the likes of
midweek games.
Castleford and all that sort of stuff. If
Take
they
big
get an
sport.
Australia game there.
That's what I'm saying. Like the young kids were going to go and play soccer, and they go and watch the Kangaroos. Do they then pay league?
Well, then Australia would have to take
30?
30 players. Take 30 players.
No, you need to take way more than 30 players because you need at least 2 17s. You'd need like a 40-person squad.
Well, some blokes could back up, couldn't they?
Yeah, of course.
Can you? You reckon that's okay now? Oh, all right. You're
Like did in the day, Terry Lamb played every game. In the game's changed.
Just a little bit.
The game's changed.
If you step on the
Sound
inside
like
bench,
Jaden still get surgery.
play 15 minutes.
there's just the clubs would just not allow it. No way.
So I reckon we get caught in the greater good of the game, right? Clubs, and I'm saying I think there should be 3 or 4 weeks for Origin, but I think we're all in this for the greater good of the game, like Vegas and what have you. We're all for that. So I think, why wouldn't the club support it, right? That's what I think. And I am, because they are part of a club, so I support it. If it means more money in the pie, so ultimately we're growing the game for more money in the pie and more revenue, then we should do that. That's my view.
Well, first question is, can it generate revenue?
I think it can.
Game?
I think it can.
And B, I know you're coming from a good place, Tony, but most people are governed by short-term self-interest.
I get that.
Which would be like basically keeping a job. Like you as the CEO of Manly is like, it's great to have this holistic view, but it's like you need to deliver results for Manly, because ultimately if you don't,
correct,
your head rolls. Coach Flanagan, again, if the Dragons don't deliver, whose person is on the chopping block? It's the people at the top in those roles. So you would be looking at that and going, I don't really want my star player going over to England to play this Kangaroos. So I know it means a lot to him, but why are we allowing this?
But I think from my perspective, like as administrator, as I said, the pie gets bigger. The players, you can't stop the players from playing. Like the Turbos, they want to play, right? They want to play for Australia. Tom would play on one leg.
You can't stop them playing, but you could certainly advocate against this coming to part of the calendar of rugby league.
If it broadens the game and helps us as a game, I think we need to plough on. I really do. If we stop it, I think that just is not good for anyone. I think
it'll die.
Yeah, it will.
The game will die in Samoa and Fiji, and it'll never die in PNG because it's a national sport. It'll probably die in England. I don't you want to foster the growth of those games, and the best way you can do it is by playing them internationally. Well, spending money there is obviously important. I'll do that, but
okay. Well, but we in terms of like the international game, like. We get the sugar hit and we see what Samoa and Tonga have done, and then because of it's a club-based game, we can't capitalise on it.
But that, Jimmy, they're about to with this $600 million they're getting. They're going to spend a lot of money in the Pacific.
So where's all that money go?
But they're going to spend money in pathways and development as opposed to putting on more test matches.
Yeah, but I would imagine, I imagine some of that money will be to play test matches, maybe not necessarily in Fiji and Samoa and Tonga, because I don't know what the facilities are like. I think that's part of the issue. Playing
PNG facilities is really good.
Samoa and Tonga, I think the facilities, whether you can play a test match there, would be an issue. But they're definitely going to grow the game there and help the game.
But it doesn't matter where you play it. As our game shows, it's about broadcast numbers.
Yeah,
that's where you get the money from. So. When England come here and play in the Ashes, it's got to be. You'd hope it'd be well supported by fans, but you need viewers. Otherwise, the television networks are not going to tip money into it. It's not going to be a product of value.
People watch Australia play. I think it rates okay. The test matches. Well, it's not like the grand final or state of origin, but
But then that's a sad reflection of where it's at, because really. Australia v England should, like, if international game is the pinnacle of our sport.
But part of the issue is there where it is in this. It'll be at the end of the season, right? So by the time fans get to the grand final, right, they watch the grand final and they're almost exhausted. They're not exhausted of rugby league, but it switches to almost. You're in that middle period between league and cricket, right? So people almost switch off a little bit.
But they don't have to. It's not like they're enduring it.
It doesn't.
The finals, it's a peak, and
test matches don't rate poorly. They rate pretty good.
Okay, well then they should continue on.
Yes, they should.
I hope that they do. I had the absolute time of my life playing for England.
But what would help to generate broadcast ratings is you prop up the English game and help it get better. So when they send a team here, it actually goes okay, rather than Australia putting the cleaners through them.
Your transfer window would help as well, mate, with the ratings at the end of the year.
Yeah, it would, yeah.
Couple of weekends.
It would do.
Free agents. Come on. Why not?
With the English game there, Jimmy, I was just, as you were talking, like to prop that game up, we talked about the foundations, probably not enough junior participation and all that sort of stuff. They've got too many restrictions on players from Australia going there as well. Like if they want, they could get some, 2 or 3 players per club to go that are better than they've got. But unless their quota's done, they just can't get visas and so on there to go. So it's a bigger problem. If we want that game to be better in the Super League, they need to fix the rules there a little bit about Australian players, New Zealand players, Samoan players, Tongan players going there. Originally, those Pacific Islands could go there. They were part of the quota, but they have changed.
What about changing the timing of their season so it goes back to a point where
Winter?
Yeah, so NRL players could play here and then go over there.
We've just been speaking about player bear now, and now you're what? Oh, because the money. Because the money.
Money.
Yeah.
I don't think he'll go back.
No.
No, won't go back.
2 months, go over there for a couple of months, guest in.
Very
But
cool.
then that devalues the competition. And even to Flano's point about improving the product, one of the bugbears is that there's too many overseas players that don't qualify for England. So you bring those players in, and then it stops the development of those younger English.
It's just a thought bubble, Jimmy. You've just popped it, but anyway, that's fine.
I think those English players too, there's not the money in the game to pay the best players. There's their issue, like the revenue. So
Well, isn't their salary cap like three and a half million?
yeah,
So,
low.
you know, the minimum wage here is what, 120?
150, I think now, isn't it? Has it gone up?
Minimum wage 135.
135. Like, well, that's, you know, roughly speaking, you know, 70,000 English, which, you know, is decent money over there. So
Yeah, it is.
I just, you know, if you're minimum wage, I don't think you'd look at it and go, well, 70, it's not worth it. You know, you'd need to pay more to get them to go, and then that's 100 grand maybe to get a fringe first grader over here, which, you know, sort of devalues the product over there. So we'll wrap up rep football. One recommendation from each of you. We'll go with you first, Tony.
The recommendation would be Origin 4 weeks. Sorry about that. Origin 4 weeks for me. Simple.
It would be just get an international schedule, you know, a four-year cycle happening, so we all know where we're heading.
Mine was the same. Then keep game 3, Origin.
Hey, why don't we just do 5-game series? Yeah, more revenue.
More money.
Queensland 5-0, I love the
Shut up.
Let's just do.
That's it.
I reckon shorten the season, keep playing national footy, buy a Super League, build up the English game, boom, international calendar goes off the charts.
So that one recommendation was absolutely fantastic. All 3 points noted. All right, thanks for listening, everyone. That's Rep Football done and dusted.